Hello, friends. Welcome back. My name is David Amberghini. In today's discussion, it's kind of like a mix of emotional, but also how this can help you. Whatever you're going through in life, if it's adversity, a breakup of some sort, you name it. I mean, it's crazy. It's 2025 here, so we're all going through something, and you're not alone. And my story starts with being born in Chicago, Illinois, and then we moved here, and I had adapted into Wisconsin at a young age. Everything seemed to be all butterfly and rainbows for at least the majority of it. And that was until, as time went on, growing up, it was kind of a normal. I was going to more funerals and celebrations. A lot of extended family and grandparents and that kind of thing, unfortunately, were passing. So that was definitely maturing quite quickly. Then, as time went on, I would say, still in middle school, on the tail end of it. And I found out that my stepdad was not even my real father, which was a shell-shocking thing. I mean, it's like you feel like you're lied to and that kind of thing. And when that happened, it wasn't like my mother and family was trying to be detrimental to me. It's just, I don't think that's a good timing for anyone. And when I found that out, it motivated me to not only just, lock in on whatever I wanted to get done, but just in general. It just made me mature even quicker, and it just kind of made my whole world turn upside down. And it was like one thing after another. It was like I find out my stepdad's not my real father, to financial issues, and I'm helping, pay for things around the house at a young age. And it just turned me into an entrepreneur, not focused on like the little first principle things, but rather the bigger reality of the world, right? Like back to survival type of thing. And looking back on it, I wouldn't regret what my life has been. I would say adversity for everyone, whatever you're going through, first and foremost, builds you to the character that you're going to be. And there's definitely levels to it and calibers where there's no justification of your parents being killed or your family members passing away too young of an age. Like, there's a lot of justification that isn't credible for our, times and tribulations that we go through. So I look at it as kind of a blessing and a curse in a way. It's something that you can't change. It's like a nightmare that's reality, but it's something that you can use as motivation. Don't necessarily be a victim to these adversities. Decompress when you have to, let the emotions out, but also know when to be that person that someone else can lean on your shoulder eventually through those experiences. And by being that person, you have to endure that at some point. So back to the kind of the storyline here. When I found out, my stepdad isn't my real dad, then I'm like, okay, well, who's my real father? And of course, he lived in Chicago. My mother set up a date to meet him, and everything's going good. We're building a strong connection with each other. And then one time he's like, hey, I got great tickets at the Cubs game in Chicago, come meet me there and we'll go. Well, he's not answering the day before. He's not answering the day of. Well, he got too drunk and skipped the day we were supposed to spend together and kindle this relationship. So I was very fortunate to have a cousin that actually brought me to that game that day and showed me what a real father is like. And that really, that was a sour taste. I forgave him, of course. And then, ironically, a couple months after, he did pass away from drinking inevitably. So what I learned, through that process is being basically lied to a whole life, getting close and then gets taken away. And it just made me shut down. And that was the biggest mistake I made, was shutting down around that time period of beginning in freshman year of high school. And what I did was always just push this emotion into some sort of work or some sort of creation, which on the outside, external, especially in America, is very materialistic and shallow, looks at it as like, wow, you're doing great, you're doing all this stuff. But in reality, when you lose all the things that do matter, you start to gain all the things that don't, or vice versa. So that brings me to, around freshman year, I'm just trying to go through it. I show up to school the next day even finding out. All my teachers like, why are you here? Like, just if you need anything, let us know. And that's how I always went about life. When something gets thrown at me, I'm not like, boo-hoo and I'm going to sit back and cry about it. And I'm not saying that it's like a flex or a good thing either. When you have emotions, let it ride and tap into that. That is normal. We are human beings. So whatever you're going through, if that is the breakup or a financial situation, please let it out. Let it out and let people around you know. Take that time off. And then once you kind of find yourself and do that inner work, then really hit something that uses these situations as some sort of like rock. Like, for example, I have a tattoo here of my mother's, birthday. And that is like a motivating factor of tapping all of the stuff into my subconscious to motivate all of the stuff, that first principle. And moving on, aside from that, I'm in high school, the father passed, and I'm working hard. I'm still getting pretty decent grades. I never was like failing many classes at all. I was actually pretty exceptional with school naturally, and I honestly didn't study too much. So I'm very fortunate and blessed for that. And then I was still working. I come from a long history of entrepreneurship, of lemonade stands, to going door-to-door sales for a landscaping business, to like just flipping products I can get, basically like very early e-com type of stuff. That didn't work for me though. SMA was the first one that really was a real business, building out systems. And I'm making more money than majority of my teachers in a month than they do as a salary. So I really wanted to work hard for the next couple, like 5 years with that business, and then travel the world with my mother and just repay her for giving me the biggest blessing of putting me on this planet. Unfortunately, right after I graduated high school, I'm 19 years old, and I get a call from my brother. He's choking up on his words, and I find out on that Saturday morning that my mother, had passed. Or at least it wasn't looking good. She was trying to get resuscitated. So I leave my fiance's house driving like 130 miles per hour. I see ambulance and everything there. It wasn't looking good. Unfortunately, she did pass that Saturday in 2022. And my mother was like my everything. She was the biggest motivator of business, of staying here. It was one of those things where I'm like, Mom, I'm here for you and you're here for me and we're in this together type of thing. So when I look back and reflect on all these times, I see where people get into these roots and these lows of someone breaks up with them, when they lose a family member, their business fails, they have to file for bankruptcy, and it seems like they're suffocated and there's no way out. When I had that, I didn't even have any emotions. I couldn't even cry. I was just in shock. And at that moment, I see and I felt what everyone feels when we have these situations. And it's literally as extreme as I can keep going in life and I can make something out of this situation and be that person for someone else. Or just this is it. And what I mean by this is it, that is I'm done. I'm done with life. So for all of you here watching or listening or both, when you have these losses or just some sort of adversity, it might feel like you're alone. And that isolation will eat you alive. It's very important that you get out and you stay busy and you keep moving. Not too much where you're just like shutting those emotions out, but have that moderation of let those emotions out when you need to, but keep moving forward in life. And an object that is in motion stays in motion, Isaac Newton said. And that helps a lot when you have these ups and downs with adversity, and that's what helped me keep going, and I believe that's why I'm here today still. It wasn't because I was put here with this immaculate amount of resilience or grit. I got trained that at a young age, of these early losses to financial ups and downs to my own biological parents both being gone at 19 years of age. And I recommend for all of us, here in this lifetime, to just be there, be that good person for that next person. When you have these ups and downs, you need to just go into something that's going to help you escape, some sort of passion. And the blessing of all of this is you start to understand time a lot different. I realize someone so close to you can be gone tomorrow. You go outside and your neighbors are still doing the same routine. Life is not stopping for you. Life is not stopping for me or anyone here. Doesn't matter how rich you are, how much exposure you have. We're all in this together. And when you understand that to a severe level, your time urgency will start to increase. your understanding of what you're doing will come to a screeching halt, and you'll actually start living life for what life is meant to be. So I'll leave you all with kind of the little motivation of what this actually had me do in life. Like, what did I do about this stuff? Once I kind of got over the time period of this shell shock after my mother and all these losses, I was like, I'm not going to let this destroy me. And I ended up doing even physicality challenges, running a 62 mile, because my mother was born in 1962, and it was around her birthday, 5/11/62. And I did the 62 mile run, which is a 100 km distance run. I've done several unofficial and official, around 50 or more marathons, and over 100 miles through a span of even like a 2 to 3 year running journey, like taking it actually serious. I made sure to never skip a gym session more than 2 weeks or running within the last 10 years, which inevitably built a lot of discipline. I'm in a 7-year relationship at 23 from a high school sweetheart, because I didn't choose to make an excuse of, oh, I went through all of this stuff and I got to break up because I just can't do this. I never believed that. I stuck with discipline. I kept my ethic and morals intact. I looked at all of this stuff as not life doing this to me, but me just being a part of this big thing of life that we can't explain. We're all connected. No one here is completely special or God or a higher entity. We are all one, and it's what you do here and create that's supposed to last beyond us that is meant to be cherished. Not you and the human body that's a spacesuit that's just going to be mush at the end of this, but your soul and energy and the memories that you make is something that you have to curate and something that you have to endure, unlike this extra stuff, the fancy cars, going out and partying, whatever that is. That is nonsense. That is distractions. Distract you from things that do not matter, from the things that do. And then that leads me to, I guess, the kind of the ending of this, of course, finance and business. A lot of this channel is talking about business. And the irony is, I could be such a consultant and help anyone get to their goals financially and materialistic. But that is like the last thing I recommend. Just like a house, I want to get one analogy here before we conclude this video. A house is built on a foundation. That foundation is cracked, it's not going to be a great house. Once that foundation is built, you can have all the things that you want in life. So if you want to be wealthy, you want a good relationship, you need to build that person that deserves that. What I mean by that is if you have this heartbroken, type of perspective in life, you have to fix that before finding real love. If you don't even have your understanding of how you feel, like secure, if you're insecure, how do you expect to be confident to go on stage for some sort of business product that you want to make successful? You know what I mean? I can go on 100 different examples, but you start with the little steps. You get up, you feel good about yourself, you work out. If you're not working out, then you just at least are doing something better than yesterday. And if you keep doing that, it's going to get into this whole life of the one you actually want, inevitably. So with that, everyone, whatever you're going through, just know, again, you are not alone. And when you are watching this today, one bad day today is not a bad lifetime. And if you just stay here today, you'll be here tomorrow and hopefully, inevitably, a lifetime. And I'll leave it at that, my friends. Thank you again as usual. My name is David Amberghini, and until next time.